Our first reader is a delight because we do not often get television writers, screenwriters here for us. So Sharbari Ahmed is a fiction writer, playwright, and screenwriter, most recently for the ABC hit television series Quantico. Born in Bangladesh, she received an MA in creative writing from New York University, and her fiction has appeared in the Gettysburg Review, Caravan Magazine, Catamaran, and the Asian Pacific American Journal. Her collection of short stories is called The Ocean of Mrs. Nagai. She won the First Words Literary Prize for South Asian American writing for her story Raisins Not Virgins, which is an intriguing title, which I think she's going to tell us more about, which she adapted into a play and then a film, and that had a reading at the Tribeca Film Festival. Sharbari's fiction reminds me of Salman Rushdie's in the way that it cuts across cultures and across time and space. Here we find questions of personal and religious identity, cosmopolitanism, history, nationalism, and gender. Sharbari's is a point of view that we sorely need today. So please help me welcome Sharbari Ahmed.
So today, I'm going to read from one work and different iterations of this one work. And this work is called Raisins Not Virgins. I first wrote Raisins as a short story, and I'm going to read a little bit of that. And then when I'm done, I'm going to read the beginning of that. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to the play I turned it into, and I'm going to read the beginning of that. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to read the beginning of the screenplay I adapted it into. So bear with me. Raisins Not Virgins. April 2000, Rizwan. When Sahar Salam's mother called her early one morning to tell her about a prospective suitor, she steeled herself for the bad news. She stared out the window at the rows of tenement buildings behind her studio apartment and refused, for the most part, to listen. If she had, this is what she would have heard. Fordham Law School. From a good family. Tall, fair-skinned. Born in Maryland. Family-owned business, older sister just married, Sai, to Agora, but got him to convert, which is a great boon. Youngest of 5. Strayed once, also in general white direction, but caught himself just in time. Oh, and you will like this, Sahar. He's very liberal. He encouraged his sisters to work and study. Sahar heard the last bit, rolled her eyes, and said, "Does he have all his own teeth? Because that would be the determining factor for me." There was silence, and Sahar heard the phone go dead. But she knew that wasn't the last of it. Her mother, the battle axe, would never admit defeat that easily. She was gathering strength, amassing size like Godzilla under the ocean, for when the real war began. Sahar would have to see him. She would be manipulated into it, and she always gave herself over to her mother's guilt trips. Her mother had pointed out, much to Sahar's chagrin, that she wanted to be loved, and there was no use trying to be all modern about it. There are only 2 things all human beings ever crave, Sahar, she said one day. No matter how big their timeshare in the Hamptons is, or how many of those fancy Jewish shoes which you cannot afford you have in your closet. Love and recognition. If you marry well, you will attain both. I don't think Manolo Blahnik is Jewish, Mom, Sahar replied. I mean, he may be, but what does that have to do with anything? Her mother, however, had already moved on to another subject. Sahar knew when her mother talked about marrying well, she meant marrying a Muslim, preferably of Bangladeshi extraction, with a useful degree from an accredited college. Ever since Sahar was a girl, she had mentally kept her fingers crossed behind her back when it came to religion. She had done the ablutions, prayed, fasted, even toyed with the idea of covering her hair when she was outside, just so her parents would be distracted from her prolific pot use and energetic sex life. If her mother had ever found her stash, which was hidden under, strategically so as to distract, a selection of halter tops of varying degrees of immodesty, she would have been grounded for an indefinite period of time. She had lived a secret life for as long as she could remember, but now she was 28 and all the scrutiny was upon her. It was time to be married. It was simple as that. And the weird thing was, Sahar in her heart agreed. It was just that she and her parents could not agree upon the type of wedding she should have, or more importantly, the kind of husband. Sahar was lonely, and her mother had caught on to it, probably because Sahar was always so busy, clutching her cell phone to her ear and avoiding stillness at all costs. "You're moving so fast, you must be afraid to be alone," her mother once declared. Sahar had been too weak from fasting to respond to that appallingly accurate analysis. It was all she could do to scowl at her mother, who unconcernedly kept rolling out chapati dough on a marble slab and checking the kitchen clock every so often. Eid revelers would be descending upon the Salam household at any moment, and naturally, they all would be ravenous, a fact her mother resented. "Mutton doesn't grow on trees, you know," her mother whispered under her breath, as the guests fell on the food, piling it onto their plates as if it was the last supper they would ever receive. Her mother was too preoccupied then to have the conversation Sahar wanted to have. Sahar was bursting to talk about her loneliness with someone, and most of her non-Muslim friends had pointedly recommended she keep certain things to herself, i.e. not tell her mother anything about the ache of an empty space that probably originated in her womb, news that would surely send a concerned mother into a matchmaking flurry. But her mother was the most logical choice. Who knew Sahar better than she knew herself? Certainly no one from the string of breathless and dissipating Western-style romances she'd had since she was 15 years old. "Amma," Sahar said while her mother was swatted away a thirsty child who had come in search of Pepsi for the 8th time. Do you think it's time I got married?" Sahar always knew she was a masochist, but she had never so forcibly put this trait to the test. It was as if she was saying, "How much pain can I possibly take?" Her mother turned to her slowly, the way Sahar had seen a samurai in a Kurosawa movie turn to meet his ultimate foe, a hand on the hilt of the sword, tense to spring into action, suspiciously yet subtly searching to see what their next move is. Sahar stepped back and waited for the flash of the blade. She now realized what she had done, and it was far too late. But her mother merely nodded. It was almost imperceptible, and her eyes, misty from the early stages of glaucoma, filled with tears. "Yes, my darling," she said gently, clasping her hands together. "It is time you were married." Okay, so that's the beginning of this story. And then this story became this, the play, which was produced in New York and Los Angeles and Boston. And I took all that, the beginning of that, and I turned it into this, a monologue, Sahar addressing the audience. "Let me tell you something about martyrdom. I have sacrificed in the name of God. I towed the line for 18 years. No pork? Fine. No drinking? Fine. No sex until I was married? Not so fine. For me, the worst part was going to the mosque. Every year at the end of Ramadan, my mother dragged me to this mosque in Quincy, Massachusetts. I wasn't allowed to go to the main prayer area because I was a girl. I sat in the back with the other woman, my hair covered in a scarf. If my scarf slipped off my head, which it always did, 10 women glared at me while my mother looked embarrassed. We would all face east and pray, rising and falling in unison. And then after the prayers, we settled down to hear the sermon. And then it began. For an hour straight, some self-proclaimed holy instrument of God with no formal religious training informed us that everything we did was inadequate, that we were not worthy of the religion. For a big finish, he would talk about Allah's ultimate folly, the United States of America. From the age of 5 until I left for college, I was told I lived amongst debauched infidels bent on world domination. Apparently, these infidels would not rest until all of us had been converted. Every year, he prepared a sermon aimed at convincing us that our souls were in mortal danger. I have to admit he had his moments. His Halloween is satanic sermon was particularly energetic. He said it was unnatural the way Americans carved up orange squash to look like the devil and then gorged themselves on candy. I didn't buy any of it. I was an American, no matter what he told me. None of the rules applied to me. No one was going to wrap me up in black cotton, slice off my clitoris, or force me to marry an octogenarian uncle. That happened to other women in other places. So I made a pact with myself. I would ignore Islam just as it had ignored me. Then, 1 year ago, it became personal. It came into my bedroom, into my life, and stole from me. My peace of mind, my happiness, my hope. It had intruded and I had to fight back. I never asked anything from Allah. I never expected him to give me anything. And then Rizwan came along. He was real. And the craziest thing is, I wanted him. I mean, I always went for guys my mom hated. And there this one was, larger than life. Amma enters. Sahar. I'm 29 now. Anyway, when I met him, I was 28. Amma. She was 28, the perfect childbearing age. Her ovaries are drying up, turning into shriveled little raisins. They don't get used, they die. By Bangladeshi marriage standards, that's considered a fossil. Sahar. I think my mother was arranging to have my unused uterus and dried up ovaries embalmed and displayed in her living room as a warning to other women like me. But at this point in my life, even I was feeling the urgency. Amma. I've seen it happen. My niece Rinky and that poor girl who always bags groceries for me at the A&P, she's just a big bundle of missed opportunities. Sahar, I don't think of the proverbial biological clock. I keep imagining a stone slab coming slowly down like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I have mere seconds and centimeters to grab my hat. Amma, girls get crushed under the weight of their unused wombs. Sahar, I was down there on my chest, that stone slab about to come down on me, grinding my bones to dust. Then my mother called. Amma. He's a law student, Fordham, from a good Muslim family, tall, decent complexion, born in Long Island. Younger sister just married a Shada Chamra, a very white one, but got him to convert, which is mashallah, a great boon. He's eager to meet you, Sahar. Sahar. I was not enthused. I asked if he had all his own teeth, because that would be the determining factor for me. Amma. I don't care how many fancy Jewish shoes you own. Sahar. Manolo Blahnik isn't a Jew, Mom. Amma. Or how fancy your timeshare in the Hamptons is. You need what everybody ultimately needs. Sahar. Botox? Amma. Love. It's very simple. This boy is wonderful. His name is Rizwan. He'll love you, trust me. He wants to meet you at any time you want, at any place you want. Sahar. How about never and in hell? Amma. Hell? How can you talk about hell and love in the same sentence? If anyone's going to hell, it's you. Love is all there is. Love for God and love for your husband. Sahar's father leans over and turns up the volume. Amma turns around. Are, what the hell are you doing? Can't you see I'm talking to your daughter? Turn that shit down. Sahar, are you still there? Okay. So the story became that. And then, because I'm a masochist, I decided to write a film. What the fuck was I thinking? All right, pardon me. Okay, so here we go. Bear with me because I'm going to read the camera angles and everything. Okay, so this is the beginning of Raisins Not Virgins, the film. Exterior, mosque, day. Two men, Middle Eastern, 30s to 50s, in skull caps and Middle Eastern garb, walk out of a mosque. They are talking animatedly. The Muslim call to prayer begins. The camera pulls out from the mosque into an aerial shot of Manhattan. The call to prayer fades out. Cut to, close-up of an alarm clock in the shape of a mosque. It goes off with a high-pitched, tinny call to prayer. Allahu Akbar. A woman's hand. The hand hits a minaret to no avail. The call won't stop. It searches around for the off button, also fruitlessly. Medium shot of our heroine, Sahar Salam, 29, pretty, Bengali. Sahar is in bed. She grabs the mosque and shakes it while the high-pitched voice continues to urge prayer. Sahar, Jesus, where's the snooze button? She finds a button and presses it. The crying stops. Sahar groans and pulls a pillow over her head. A moment later, the alarm goes off again. Allahu Akbar. Sahar jumps up and picks the clock up. She strides to the window and opens it. She's going to throw the clock out the window, but then hesitates. She turns her head to look at something on her bedside table. A close-up of a framed photo of an older Bengali couple in a cheesy Sears portrait. Sahar backing away resignedly from the window. She closes it with a sigh, defeated already. She starts to get ready to go to work. Cut to interior, her front door. Sahar is walking out the door when the alarm clock goes off again. Sahar, you've got to be kidding me. She goes back inside. Interior, the hallway outside the apartment. An elderly woman, Mrs. Dreyfus, 70s, in a housecoat, peeks out when she hears the sound of the alarm. Shot on Sahar. She comes out and locks the door. She sees Mrs. Dreyfus staring at her suspiciously. Sahar, hey, Mrs. Dreyfus. Mrs. Dreyfus, what do you got, the Taliban in there? Sahar, no, Mrs. Dreyfus, it's Ramadan, so my mom gave me a clock, so I get up in the middle of the night to eat. Have a good day. She runs down the stairs. Mrs. Dreyfus, you'll get indigestion. Mrs. Dreyfus shutting the door. Close-up of TV screen. A sexy, semi-nude blonde woman, 20s, is washing her hair in a suggestive manner in a shampoo commercial. The camera pulls out to Sahar watching the TV. Cut to interior Sahar's living room early evening. A group of hip professional New Yorkers, men and women, mid-20s to 30s, sit and watch the commercial. They're all holding champagne flutes. When the commercial is finished, two of the women applaud and hold up their glasses to lead a toast. Everyone follows suit. The only one who doesn't hold up her glass is Sahar. Her hair is wavy and uncooperative most of the time. Today it looks sleek, but Sahar fiddles with it when she's nervous, excited, or both. She smiles and nods as she accepts everyone's congratulations. Everyone around her seems very happy. The two women leading the toast are Wanda, 29, Hispanic and pretty, Hannah, 27, Indian, pretty and plump. Wanda, Sahar's first national commercial. Sahar, yours and mine. Hannah, cheers. Angle on Sahar. Thanks, guys. There's plenty of food and drink, so help yourself. Hannah peers out the window. Has the sun set yet? Sahar, why? Hannah, remember it's Ramadan, bad girl. Oh, right. Hannah, it looks dark enough. I can never tell. She pours herself more champagne. I take it you haven't been fasting? Sahar, how can you ask me that? I've been trying. Don't you think you should eat something first? Hannah, I will. I need to rehydrate. She drinks her champagne rapidly. Ramadan Mubarak. Sahar and Hannah clink glasses. Sahar sighs. Hannah, you don't look happy. Sahar, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The commercial? It's for dandruff shampoo, for Christ's sake. Wanda, most people would kill to be in your position. Almost 30 in a national commercial? Sahar, this is all I have to show for being 30. Wanda, it could be worse. You could be living in Saudi Arabia with 7 kids and no clitoris. I cringe every time I read that line. Sahar laughing. That's awful. Wanda's suddenly distracted. He's here. She looks excited and reaches inside her shirt and adjusts her boobs. Front door. 2 men walk in. Our hero, Aaron Waldman, 34, attractive, rumpled, Jewish, and his friend Rob, 34, dressed in a suit, much sleeker than Aaron. They take off their coats, survey the scene before heading over to the women. Angle on Sahar, Hannah, and Wanda. Sahar's too preoccupied to notice them. Sahar, so be honest, how much of a sellout am I? Hannah, well, let's see. The model you ended up going with is the polar opposite of you, and she's using her tits to promote a shampoo that actually gives you dandruff rather than prevent it. But other than that, it's terrific. She tops off her already full glass. Sahar, so then I'm a total sellout. Hannah, congratulations. You've made it in advertising. Sahar, I did try to give it substance. I was like, why can't she be sexy and funny and fight dandruff at the same time? Wanda nudges Sahar to get her attention. Rob and Aaron walking towards them. Angle on Wanda and Sahar. Wanda, softly, almost to herself. I hate feeling this way, but when you get to our age, you can't help but hope. Sahar, 30 is not old, Wanda. I'm looking forward to it. Wanda, yeah, okay. Rob and Wanda kiss each other on the cheek. Rob, you look great. Wanda, thanks. You remember Sahar and Hannah? Rob, of course. He leans in and kisses Sahar on the cheek. Hannah is too far away and quite tipsy, so she just waves. Wanda, you missed the commercial. Rob, I know, I'm sorry about that. How did it go? Sahar, fine, all 26 seconds of it anyway. It's no big deal. These guys insisted on throwing a party. Rob, this is Aaron. He's a college buddy of mine. Aaron holds out his hand to Sahar. She takes it. Sahar, nice to meet you. Sahar, salam. Aaron, Ramadan Mubarak. Sahar looks confused. Okay, do you need a drink? Hannah, I'll get it, my Muslim brother, tapping Aaron on the shoulder. She staggers away. Aaron is amused. Rob, Aaron's an Islam nut.